Well, hello everyone and welcome to another project. In today's project, we're going to create a responsive and interactive checkout plan that is going to let us check out a specific plan. As you can see, if we select an annual plan, it's going to change the price and the description up here and also the total sum. And the same thing if we select the monthly payment. Now, if we wish to check it out, then we just need to click on checkout and it's going to send us to the finish page. We can also go back. And of course, this is going to be completely responsive. So before we get into the project, I just want to mention that if you like this kind of project, that please give this video a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more web development. Also, just a short mention, we are going to have our summer sales for our courses, so definitely stay subscribed and hit the notification bell in order to get notified when the summer sale is out. It should be out in August. So stick around. Now, with this being said, let's jump into the project. So on the left side, I have my code editor, which is as always Visual Studio Code. And on the right side, we have our finished project. So we're going to just jump into the project. I already have a folder created called code, as always. Now, if you want to create another folder, create it on your desktop or in a projects folder, I always suggest to create a projects folder and save all your projects there. This is how I do my projects, my YouTube projects, that is. And save it in there. And just type in code, your code, and then the existing code. By the way, the code, the finished code is down in the description below. So definitely check it out. It's on my blog. As always, all of the source codes for all my projects are on my blog. So if you have everything set up, let's just create a new index.html file. And then hold down Shift, exclamation mark, create a boilerplate. And I'm going to close up the left part. I don't need that for now. So just tap Control and B on a PC or Command B on a Mac. It's just going to close up the left part. Now, right into our body, let me just check something. This is extremely This is extremely small. Let me zoom out a bit. I like to have it roughly at 25 lines. So you can see what I'm doing, and I could also code something, but that is just too much. Yeah, that's almost perfect. Okay, let's get started. So within our body, we have to first take care of our HTML. Now, this part right here, this is going to be interactive. It's going to be achieved using JavaScript. This part will be completely HTML. So let's get started with, first of all, a title. I'm going to create a h1 with the class of title. And then within here, I'm going to type in select a plan. Then we're going to create a main container, main tag, which is going to have a class of container. That is going to include two divs. One div will be a plans container, which is the left part where we can select our plans. And then I'm going to create another div, which is going to be the checkout container, which is on our right side where we check out our selected plan. So checkout dash container, hit enter. And we're going to get started first of all with our plans container. Now, the plans container is going to contain two plans. As you can see up here, we have an annual plan and a monthly plan. So first we're going to create the annual plan. And I'm going to wrap everything that is in here in a label. So if you're surprised why I'm using a label, you're going to see this just in a couple of seconds. Now I'm going to leave this for open for now, and I'm going to add to the label two classes. One is going to be plans, and then another class of annual plan. So this is going to be the annual plan, dash and plan. And then I'm going to copy this label and just replace this annual plan with a monthly plan. So monthly plan, and there we go. We have our two containers for our plans now. Now within the label, within our annual plans label, I'm going to create now a input tag. This is going to have the type of radio. That's going to have a name of plan container. And the name is very important because this is going to wrap everything or signify that these two radio buttons will communicate with one another. Basically, if we have one selected, that the other one will be not selected. Let's also give this a ID of annual dash plan dash select. And now we're going to go back to our for. Now the for the label stands for whatever this ID is, it's going to select it. You know what? Let's also right click and open it up with live server. So there we go. We have a little for here, we have a little selection here, and if I click it, even if I click on, let's just type in something here in the label, let's do a quick h3 of, oh, it should be h3, and we don't need that h1. So even if I do a quick h3 of annual plan and click on this annual plan, then you will see the radio button being selected. And this is why I wrapped everything in a label and use the for property, because this for property is going to look for this ID. Whatever, if these two are the same, then as soon as you click on the label, it's going to select our check mark. Now let's refresh the page, and we want one of our plans to be always selected. If I refresh my finished project, one of the projects to be always selected when I click on that radio button. So for this, we're going to add to the input tag the checked property, and this is going to be constantly have our radio button checked. Now there are a couple of things that I still want to add here. One is going to be a value. This is not necessary, but in this specific project, I'll also copy the ID, but I would suggest that you practice adding values if you want to move later on to React, because values are extremely important in React. And the last thing that I want to add to this is a class. I'm going to add a class of plan and select. Plan-select. Okay, now right after our input, we're going to create a div that's going to have the class of annual, plan, and description. And I'm going to pass this h3 now into our annual plan description. Also, if you take a look at our finished project, this is our description. It has a title, which we're using in h3 for it. So I'm going to add to this a class of plan and title. And the second thing is the actual description of the plan. So we're going to go underneath the plan, and I'm going to use a small tag. Now let's add to this a class of plan description, and let's add to this the description. I'm just going to copy it in of save 60%, $60, meaning 70% by blah 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 blah. So just copy this in, either by typing it in or copying it from the source code down the description. So we're done with our very first plan. I'm going to copy everything that I did here, including this div, so the input and also the div, and paste it into my next plan, which is going to be the monthly plan. So we're just going to replace wherever it stands annual. I'm going to select Control or Command D and replace it with monthly. I'm going to add to this a capital letter, and we're going to now copy the ID and paste it into the for property. Let's check it out in our finished project, and also remove from the second one the check mark. Okay, let's hit a save. You will see that your first plan is checked, and if you click on the next plan, either if you click on the radio button or if you click on the label, it's going to have the same effect, as you can see. So radio button or label is going to have the same effect. So we're pretty much done. No, wait, we still need to change the text here, because this is now the monthly plan, and the monthly plan will have a different plan description. There we go. So exactly as we have it down here. Now, right after the div here of monthly plan description, we also need a price. So I'm going to go up to annual plan, go after the div, create a section, going to add to this a class of annual plan price, annual plan and dash price. And within our price section, we're going to create an h3, which is going to have a class of price, and then a $24.95, then just add a slash to it, and per month. Okay, next, right after the h3, I'm going to create a small tag again, and it's going to have the complete amount, or total amount of 299, not 29, 299.40, and this will be per year. Perfect. So there we go. There we have both of them. I'm just going to copy it now, go underneath my monthly plan description and paste it in here. So right after the div, and now we just need to replace our price with this right here, because it's going to be, so we're just going to delete our small tag from here, because it's just going to have only a monthly type of subscription. Okay, now for the checkout part. Let's go into our checkout container. Let's create an h3 with the class of plan-type. Now this is going to include a small tag, a span tag with the class of plan-type-description with a text of annual plan. Now if you're confused, this is Emmet, power of Emmet. If I hit enter, you're going to see everything is in there. If you want to learn more about Emmet, then please check out my Emmet video. Now next we still need another span tag, which is going to be the amount. So I'm going to copy this span tag, paste it down here, and just type in amount. And let's change this to the amount that we need here, which is going to be $299.40. Now right after our H3, we're going to create a div with the class of billing that is going to include another div with the class of billing dash description, which is going to be this part. Right after our plan, we're going to have the billing description. So within this div, we're going to have an H4 with total as a text, and then right after it, a small tag that is going to have a class of billing and period. Okay, and for the text, we're going to type in billing or build, because we need to tell now the client how often will this be billed, and it's going to be billed every year and dot. Okay, now we still need a last thing right here, right after our billing. We need our billing amount, which is this right here. We're going to wrap this into an H3 with the class of billing and dash, you guessed it, amount, with the text of US $, and 299.40. And close this up again, hit enter, and there we go. Okay, so we should have everything that we need except in this checkout button. So let's add this right after our billing here. So our div with the class of billing, you're going to jump out of it and add a button with the class of checkout dash btn. And I misspelled checkout, missing a C here. And then with the text of checkout, of course, check out. Boom, there we go, we have a button. And if we check out our current project, then this is what you should see. Pretty ugly, but no worries, because now we're going to move to styling. So let's create here a new file. First of all, you know what? I'm going to go up before title, and I'm going to create a link. I'm going to include here style.css. Hit save. Now go outside and create a style.css file. And first things first, we're going to do a general reset, which is always a margin 0, padding 0, and box sizing border box. And I'm also going to close up the navigation here. Next, we're going to use CSS Variables. So we're going to create a root, have the root selected, and create a couple of variables like primary color, which is going to be a hexadecimal of F2, F2, F2. And I typed in 3, F2, F2, F2. There we go. There's the very first color. Then we're going to have a secondary color. It's going to be a completely dark color. So I'm going to go with 0, 0, 0. Then a tertiary color. It's going to mean the third color, dash and color. And let's add here hex 2962 and FF. Too many Fs. Then a quaternary color. Didn't think I'm going to pronounce that correctly. Quaternary color, meaning 4. But I was kind of uninspired with the naming convention here, so I just used the really typical naming convention, which is just adding dumb names after numbers. So 7, 8, A, 7, D, 8, and 6. And then the very last one, which is going to be the fifth one, which is quinary color. And I think I'm losing subscribers right now. So with my naming convention, so 722. Okay, there we go. Now let's grab onto the body tag and let's change the font family first of all. So I'm going to use not the font size, font family. I'm going to choose here just simple, good old sans serif. Let's now change the background color to the var, and I'm going to choose here the secondary color. I'm going to turn everything dark, but no worries, going to change the color, then back to the var of primary color. And there we go, everything is back. Now let's scroll down a bit. Now let's grab onto our title right here. So dot title class and font size. Let's increase the font size to 52 pixels. Let's center the text, so text align center. And let's add a bit of margin to top and bottom of 4 rem, and left and right 0. There we go, text is centered, and it also has a bit of margin top and bottom. Next we're going to grab onto our container class, which remember is wrapped around everything, and we're going to display it as flex. Now I'm not going to go into too much details because this is not one of my courses, but basically we're going to, let's just close here a couple of things up. So we have a container. Our container contains, let's close up the main divs, 2 different containers, which is the plans container and the checkout container, meaning this and this. And we're going to display them as flex. And if you leave everything as it is, then I'm going to say it just in a couple of seconds. This is going to flex everything in a column direction. So we're going to change this to flex direction and row. And there we go. Now it's flexed in the row direction. I'm going to now justify the content center and also align the items to the center. I'm not hitting save each time I type something, so this is why you don't see any changes. Also, let's increase the gap. Now I'm going to hit save, and after I type in gap to RAM, I'm going to see a gap realized between those two. So gap to RAM, you're going to see there's the gap. Okay, now let's also add some margin to the top again of to RAM, because I do want this to be pushed down even further. Now let's move on to our plan. So we got our annual plan, and we're also going to select the monthly plan class. And I don't know if I already told you this in the description, but we're going to use a bit of advanced CSS, meaning I'm going to use nesting, I'm going to use different types. Also, we are using variables, so you already get the riff that this is not just regular good old-fashioned CSS. We're going to use a couple of advanced techniques. So we got our two plans. We're going to display them both as grid. So display, you're going to use grid here. And now I can specify how this grid should be divided. Now a grid usually has 12 columns. So I'm going to go ahead here and use those 12 columns by typing in grid template column. And the first column will have only one fraction. Now the next column will have 8 fractions. Did I say columns? No, it has 12 fractions. Sorry about that. And you can create as many columns you want, but you should regularly. Also, if you use Bootstrap or taking my Bootstrap class, that is where we use those fractions extremely often and divide everything up into 12. Now you can use those 12 to group up space, meaning I'm going to have here 1 fraction, here 8 fractions, and the next one going to be 3 fractions of the column. So this is how this will be set up. The first fraction is also, let me just really quickly inspect. Take this, and you can see as soon as I hover over this, you're going to see, wait a second, here. So let's select our container, main container, and in our main container, I'm going to go ahead. Hey, where are the selections? Bring this down here. So the plans container right down here. If I click on this grid symbol, you're going to see how this is now divided into one group here, a second group here, and a third group here. And this has 1 fraction, this has 8 fractions, and this one has 3 fractions. Okay, you do need to click on this grid button to see that optionality. I'm using Google Chrome. If you're using Mozilla Firefox, it's even simpler. So let's close this up. This is how we divided our little fractions here. Now let's add a bit of gap. I'm going to use gap of 1 RAM. It's going to create some space between those fractions or between those columns. And now let's also use the entire width of its container. I'm going to use 100%. Let's add a bit of padding, all around padding of 1.5 RAM, meaning going to add padding between those two plans, between this plan and this plan. And now just want to change something in my very first plan. Now I could either isolate this or grab onto the parent using the parent selector. Now the parent are both of these plans. So it's not one of them, but are both. Now, if we have 2 plans or 2 elements selected, then we can now use the child selector by using the first child selector. Okay, and within here, I'm going to specify that the border button of the very first child should be 1 pixel solid and the variable color of quaternary color. And there we go. I messed something up in my hexadecimal. I'm going to check it out just in a couple of seconds. And there we go. You can see that only the very first child has a border to the bottom. Ain't that cool? So this is really recently added. It's not supported in Mozilla Safari. Also, I believe in Edge it is supported, but it's not supported in each and every browser, and it's not supported on the same level. So please, if you're using a different browser than Google Chrome for now, then think about it. Okay, don't forget about this. Now, next up, we're going to add here a transition all of 0.3 seconds and ease in out. Whoops, 0.3 seconds, ease in out, because we are going to add a couple of effects. Now, again, I'm going to select here the parent selector and now add a hover to it, meaning that both of them, so both elements, where I'm going to hover over them, something should happen. Now, first thing first, I'm going to add a cursor pointer property. I'm going to scroll up a bit, then change the background color to a var and quaternary color or quinary color. And again, let me just check my quaternary color here. I messed something up. This is 7. Oh, this is 6. This is why it's a bit purple. These, okay, because this should be completely gray, as you can see. or almost gray. Now I changed the background color, so if I hover over one of them, you're going to see the background color changing. Now it's also add a bit of border radius to them. So a border radius of 0.5 rem, and then a border button of none, because when I'm hovering over the very first one, I want the border to disappear. If I hover over the second one, I want the border to remain there, but the first one needs to have no border, okay, because it's going to just look dumb. Now within this, I'm going to use nesting. I'm going to select the dot plan title. And I'm going to add to each of the plan titles a margin to the bottom of 0.5 rem. Okay, so just have a bit of space between these two. Next, let's grab onto the small tags. So I'm going to select now all small tags within this project. And I'm going to change their colors using the variable color of quaternary color. Okay, now you can see all small tags have that gray color to that. Next up, let's grab onto our annual plan, the price that is. Within the annual plan price, we have a small tag, which is this one right here. So let's grab onto the annual plan price. And within there, we're going to grab onto the small tag. And let's add to it. So look for this small tag, the finished project. This is our own project. Look for a small tag and add to it a margin top of 0.5 rem, hit save and see what happens. Well, absolutely nothing. This is because small tags are displayed as inline. In order for this to have an effect, we need to take the small tag and display it as block. Okay, and now you can see it will be pushed down. So remember this, if you're having problems with small tags, this is why. Okay, next up we're going to do a text line to the right, pushing the small tag to the right side. Perfect. Next we're going to take care of our checkout container. So let's go down here, select the class of checkout out and container, and start styling it. First, we're going to display everything as flex. Then we're going to change the flex direction, this time to column. We're going to justify the content to center, align items to center, and add a gap of 1 rem. Next, we're going to add a width to it of 400 pixels. I'm going to add a margin to the top of 2 rem. Let's scroll down a bit. Let's change the background color to the variable color of quaternary color. And let's add a padding of 1.5 rem, all around padding that is. Last thing, I want to add a border radius to it. So border radius of 15 pixels, and there we go. Now we need to style each and every option within it, meaning the plan type, the bid, the billing, and the checkout button. So I'm going to still remain within here. We're going to use a bit of nesting and select the class of plan-type, then the class of billing, and after that the class of checkout and btn. Okay, so let's start styling them. First things first, we're going to add a width of 100% of its container, meaning they're going to take out the entire space. Now let's add a padding to the bottom of 1 rem, a margin to the top, or actually the bottom. So about that, so margin bottom of 0.5 rem. We're going to display them as flex, and now we can add to this a justify content. So if you take a look in your finished project, you're going to see that one is to the right side and one is to the left side. And it is simply achieved by adding a justified content with space between. So not around, because it's going to add space around the elements, also only between the elements. Hit save, you're going to see them pushed to the side, to the right and left side. Now I want to add a border to the bottom of this right here, meaning the plan type. Now how can we do that? Remember, we have all 3 of them selected and we only want to add style to the very first one. We have 3 elements, and again we can use the parent selector. And now I'm explaining everything like it would be a course, but I do want you to know all of this stuff. So we're going to use the first child selector, and within here we're going to add a border. You know what, I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to use here nth child, and then you can specify here number 1, and it's going to have the same effect. Just a second, did I type this incorrectly? Nth child, very first child, and we're going to add to this a border dash button of 1 pixel, solid, and var quaternary color. Okay, and there we go. The very first element has now a border to the bottom. Next, we need to select the very last child, because next up we're going to style our button. Again, we can use a child selector. So we're going to use parent, and you can either use last child or use the nth child and type in number 3 here. this case, I'm going to stick with mchild because we already used mchild, and no, I want you to have both of these variables or variants. And now the button should be selected. Let's start styling it by changing first of all the background color to a var of ternary color. Hit save, and there you go. Button should have now have a blue color. Now let's take out the border by typing border none. Scroll down a bit. Next, we're going to take out our outline with none and display flex, and then change the color to a var primary color. Change the cursor to pointer, add some border radius to it, the same border radius that we add to the entire container, so 15 pixels. Add some padding. It's going to push the text now to the right side by using one rem here. Then calc, you're going to subtract from, wait a second, how did I do that? One, you know what, I'm just going to use here percentage, 35%. This should push it, this is depending, there you go. Okay, I also want to increase the font size, so let's increase this to 1.2 rem. This is now pushed too far to the left side, so I'm going to use here 35. Oops, not 3, 35. Perfect. Now the last thing I want to do is when I hover over this button, it's going to should change its color. So again, we're going to remain with this within this selection and use the parent selector again and add in here a hover effect. Now we can do here background color of var and quaternary color. Okay, so if I hover over this, it's going to have that effect. Now, if you want this to have a slower effect, they can just go up here and add a transition of all, meaning that's going to select this, the hover effect, and also its previous effect, and 0.3 seconds, and ease in out, or ease in where we want to select. Okay, now you can see it has that nice ease in out effect. Okay, now we need to style a billing period here. So I'm pretty much going to jump out of everything excepting our checkout container, and let's type in here, select the class of billing dash period, and change the color to a var and contemporary color. Maybe just a second, let's go back to HTML. I think at billing, I messed up here, there should be a $sign. Okay, now we have a billing period. I just want to add to this a display block again, and now I can push it down with a margin top of 0.5 rem. Okay, there we go. So it's a bit further down to the downside. So this, if this is not taking effect because it's always small text, you can just forget about this. Okay, now at a certain point, this should be responsive. So for this, we're going to use a at media, and at the screen, we're going to type in here the max width should be at a certain point, which we're going to choose now for 768 pixels, meaning a tablet or something like that. Now let's change the container to a flex direction of column, and we're going to add a gap here of 40 viewport heights. So after this, it should jump down there. Perfect. Okay. And also let's change the min width of this container. So I'm going to go also in here, select the checkout container, and I'm going to change its min width to 80% of its container, which is the main container, meaning that it's going to have the same width as the above. Okay, so we're done with this part. Now we need to add some interaction to this using JavaScript. So first things first, I'm going to go back to my HTML, go down underneath my main and above my body tag, and type here script with the source of main.js. You can also name it something else, script.js. And now let's create that file of main.js. Hit enter, and first things first, we're going to do here console log of test, and let's open up a console, right click in our project, inspect, and in the console you should see now a test. Okay, so everything is working perfect. I'm going to close up the navigation again. Let's start out by selecting our plans. So we're going to do here a const plans and selector, and we're going to select both of our plans. So why each of them had, or still have, not had, still have those classes of plans. So let's go in here, container, plans container, open up my plans container. You'll see here that this has the class of plans, this label, and also the next label, which is monthly plan. So we're going to select both of them using the document.quizSelector all, because we need to select now multiple classes. We're going to use here the class selector of plans. Okay, now we can move this console log down, and if you wish to test out if you have this selected, then you can just type in here comma and plans, and you should see a node list of both of these plans. If you hover over them, they should be selected. So you know that you did everything right. Now we're going to loop over them using a for each loop. So we're going to use here plans dot for each plan that we're going to select. We're going to add here a, let's use here regular functions. Why not? A function, and that function will then select a plan. So let's add in here. This function is going to take in a plan selector, and the plan selector can now, or each of them will now have a event added to it. So let's add a event listener of click, and if that click is executed, or if that event takes place, then a event, so we're going to have here another function, a callback function, which is going to take in the event. And now let's add some sort of conditioning to it. So if now both of them have a event, let's just test it. Console log event. Okay, so let's click on one of them. You should see console log 2 times because it's executing it for each one of them. Now, if you want to console log the event itself, because I just console logged a string, then you will see here 2 times click, 2 times click, 2 times click. Okay. Now, you know what? I'm going to replace this function because this looks so dumb for me using arrow function. So we're going to use here an arrow function, and also here there's a bit of refactoring. We also use here a arrow function because why not? We are using ES6. And now let's move back to our condition. I'm going to comment this part out, and now we're going to check which one of them was clicked. Okay, so we're going to create a condition that if the event.target.checked, we're going to check if the event.target has the property of checked. Remember, when we're clicking on one of them, we're checking it actually. And now we're going to use here another condition and, so both of them need to be true in order for this to take effect. And the second condition will be that if the event.target, and now remember that value property that I told you, now this is where it comes into play. The value is equal, so triple equal to plan.type or dash and description is equal to the annual. First, we're going to check if the annual plan is selected, dash plan dash select. Then something should happen, and we're going to do here a console log of the string of annual plan select. And I can create another condition that if this one is monthly plan, you can select both of them, monthly, then you should console log the other one. So let's check this out. If I click on monthly plan, then monthly plan will be selected or console logged. If I click on annual plan, then annual plan will be console logged. Okay, so we are now differentiating between which one of them was clicked. So let's do here refresh. So this one, this one, this one, this one again, this one again, this one again, this one, this one, this one, this one. Perfect. This is working. Now we don't want to console log here. We actually, I'm going to leave this in here. We actually want to do something else. We want to change a couple of things. Now remember that in our HTML, we added here a couple of classes. So billing description, meaning this, billing period, meaning this, billing amount, meaning this, and checkout button. Okay, so we should have also plan description, blah, 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 blah. Now we can have access to all of them by selecting them from the document. So document.querySelector, first we're going to select the plan type description, meaning we're going to select this up here, and we're going to select its dot inner HTML. Now we're going to not change it, but leave it as it is. So I'm going to go in here and add the string of annual plan, copy it, oops, I also copied that arrow, copy it, add it here within a string. You know what? I'm going to first of all, let's do it for this one first, and then I'm going to do it for another one, for the monthly plan. Okay, I'm going to copy this, paste it in here, and the next one that we need is the plan type amount. So plan type, and then change the description to amount. And I'm going to change the string here to $299.40. Okay, so we won't see any kind of changes, but you will see them just in a couple of seconds. Then we're going to copy this again. Query selector, we're going to select now the billing amount. So billing dash amount, and the billing amount will be US $, and the same thing. So all the elements that will be changed is this, 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 and also this one, because this is going to change to monthly. It is billed monthly. Okay, so we have the billing amount. Now we need our billing period. So copy this again, select the billing and period, and instead of having here $, and text, we're going to change this to billing or billed every year. And we're we are done with this part. Now I'm going to select this, copy it, paste it down here. And now let's change everything into a monthly amount. So this should be monthly. The plan type amount will be 229, 29.25. Then the billing amount will be also 29.25. And the billing period, well, it will not be billed every year, but it's going to be billed every month. Okay, pretty simple. So let's try this out. If I click on my monthly payment, this should all change. And there we go. And now if I click back here, it should change back to what we have up here, because we're changing the DOM. As soon as we click on this part, the DOM is changed. We cannot change it back. Only so without having this typed in here, because you would say, hey, wait a second, I do have it originally here. Yeah, but that's not how this works. As soon as we changed our DOM elements, they need to change them back. This is why I typed in 2 times. So you have it here and here and here. Okay, now we need to check out. And for the checkout, we're going to select our checkout button. Let's type in here comment of check out. We're going to go to the document, select our button. So query selector, we're going to select the class of checkout button, checkout-btn. We're going to already add an event listener to this. And this time I'm going to use a onClick. So we're going to move a bit faster. So you have also this one. So onClick, and this should be assigned now to a callback function. And when this onClick happens, then the event is executed or triggered, then the document, we're going to select from the document using query selector, 2 things. The title, you're going to want to change this. So, and if you can hear my kids screaming, sorry about that, but hey, they're kids. They need to scream. Title, and we're going to change the title inner HTML to check out. Okay, so as soon as I click on this button, this title should check. So change, boom, check out. Okay, this is permanently changed now. And this is not all that we want to do. We also want to change the entire content of the container. So we're going to use our query selector and select our class of container. And we're going to change also this inner HTML, this time using template literals. So we're going to use here a backtick, and everything that we type in between these backticks will be HTML. So I'm going to create here, first of all, a div with a class of success container. And within this div, we're going to create another div. Oops, empty is not working here. So let's create another div, close it up here, div with a class of success icon. Basically, we're going to create this right here. So the checkout, as you can see, appears here. Then we're going to have an icon, a text, and a button that is going to lead us back to our initial page. Now, this will not be another page. It's going to have a little trick to it. So the success dash, I'm just going to see a dash icon, and my voice is going, woo! And for the success icon, I'm going to use here a actual HTML icon. So we're going to use here a pound sign, ampersand, then a hash, and 1000, and then a 4, and then semicolon. Okay, so you should already see, if you click on checkout, you see the check mark. I'm going to also close the container, the console. So next, after our div, we're going to create an h1. Oh, damn it, Emmet is not working. This is so annoying. So let's create here an h1 with a text of thanks for your purchase, exclamation mark. You have to scream it to them. Thanks for your purchase. And then a button tag. Again, Emmet not working. Button. Jump in here, scroll up a bit, and add to the button a class to back btn. So the class will be back btn, and also the text will be just back. Simple as that. So let's click on checkout. This is what you should see. Now let's move to CSS and style it. Right after our container here, our media, we're going to style our, first of all, our success icon. So let's grab onto the success dash icon. Now, first things first, we need to add some kind of style to it. Remember, we have a div that is actually surrounding that icon. So we're going to do here a width of 100 pixels, then a height of 100 pixels. And I should add a background color to it for you to see the effect. So first, let's add a background color of the variable color of ternary color. Boom, there we go. So there's our div, which contains our little fellow. Now let's also add a margin top and bottom of 0 and left and right auto. They should push it to the center. Then we're going to display it as block. Wait, no, don't need to display it as block. This is a div. I just misread my own notes. So margin, 1 rem, all around margin, and then let's make it round by changing the border radius to 50%. No, not the background color. What am I doing? So border radius. Okay. Now our little sign is pushed out of the context, so we're going to fix this by displaying everything that's in the div as flex. Now we can use justify content center, and you guessed it, justify or align items as center, and this should push it to the center of its container, being the div. And now if you want to increase that little check mark, then you need to use font size on the container and increase everything that is in the container to 50 pixels, or less or more as you wish. Now we're done with our success icon. Next thing, let's style our button right here. And I'm going to just select the back.ptn. I'm going to copy a couple of things for our initial button, being this right here. So I'm going to grab on everything that is from there to there and paste it in here. We're going to change a couple of things. So outline none, width. We're missing here a width of 100%. Okay, and let's also add a margin to the top of 1 rem. Okay, and that's pretty much it. That's it for that little button. Now we need to add some kind of effect to it. Let's go into our JavaScript and make our little button work. And we're going to remain within this selection right here. So right after this, we're going to also add here a script that if the, wait a second. So yeah, we're going to add it right after here. So we're going to select from the document. Now remember, this button does not exist as long as we don't check out. So this is why we're going to remain within this right here. Only after the checkout button was triggered, the back button will be available in our document. So document.querySelector, and now we can select our back-ptn. Let's add an event listener to it of onClick, arrow function, and the event. And we're just going to do a simple location.reload. And that's all that you need to do. So checkout back is going to reload the page, and each time we reload the page, it's actually going to reload our initial HTML. Okay, so pretty cool project. Hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up. Tell me about new ideas, new project. If you have any kind of questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you want to be notified when I ever post new project, then click that notification bell right after you have subscribed and click on notify all to get all of my newest videos and projects. Also, don't forget, we're going to have a huge summer sale on our over 10 courses at the start of the next month. So stick around. With this being said, have a lovely day. I'm Norbert PM. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.